stop scrolling. Close your eyes for just 60 seconds. Can you hear it? That faint, insistent whisper you've been ignoring for decades. The one that says, it's your turn now. If you're standing at the threshold of 60 or have already stepped across it, know this. The greatest, most luxurious revolution of your life has just begun. This is the grand overture of your 60s, a spacious, golden era where the iron shackles of obligation begin to dissolve, where the rigid geometry of schedules gives way to the fluid landscape of desire. For years, your days were built like sturdy bridges, carrying the weight of commutes, commitments, and the relentless, non-negotiable needs of others. Now the bridge is optional. You are the architect of the day, the sole editor of the week, and the master cartographer of the year ahead. This is not merely retirement. This is a profound and thrilling rediscovery of self, a generous, open-ended sabbatical from the ceaseless performance demanded by the world. It is the time you finally grant yourself permission to live at the pace of poetry, not the pace of the clock. Before you can truly savor this immense gift of time, we must speak of the vessel that carries it, your body. The luxury of the 60s is earned not just through years of labor, but through decades of conscious, intentional maintenance. This era of freedom is tragically muted if you cannot climb the ancient temple stairs, if you must decline the spontaneous hike with a friend, or if chronic discomfort dictates the very geography of your days. Health in this context is not just the absence of illness, it is the prerequisite of vitality. It is the foundational capital, the silent investment made years ago, every time you chose the salad over the shortcut, the walk over the waiting, the early night over the exhaustion. For too long we treat our bodies like rental cars, running them hard, pushing them to the limit, assuming someone else will pay for the repairs. But now at this magnificent age, you realize you are the sole owner, and the mileage truly matters. The freedom to pursue your passions, to hike the Dolomites, to dance at a wedding, to spend 4 hours weeding a neglected garden, is entirely contingent upon this silent pact you made with your younger self. The disciplined choices of your 40s and 50s are what grant you the supple joints, the steady energy, and the clear mind of your 60s. This isn't about striving for the impossible perfection of youth. It's about honoring the resilience of the self you inhabit. It's about shifting from the destructive all-or-nothing approach of your younger years to a gentle, consistent custodianship. The luxurious freedom of the 60s grants you the time to finally treat exercise not as punishment, but as pleasure. The morning swim that eases the joints, the daily yoga stretch that keeps the spine supple, the intentional meal preparation that nourishes rather than just fuels. You have the time to research nutrition deeply, to understand the science of sleep, to practice mindfulness not as a trendy distraction, but as a necessary tool for cognitive longevity. The ultimate regret in this golden age is having the time, the desire, and the means for magnificent adventures, but lacking the physical capacity to pursue them. The true luxury of good health now is the wide, open vista of possibility it affords, the power to say yes to life's most unexpected and delightful invitations without checking the limitations of your physical state. It is the confidence that the best years are still ahead, because you planned for the longevity of your machine. This proactive engagement with your well-being transforms your senior years from a slow decline into a sustained, vibrant ascent. Yet even with decades of diligent care, the honest truth of this era is the emergence of aches, the quiet presence of discomfort. You must not deny these realities, nor can you afford to underestimate them. Instead, this golden age demands a crucial shift in mindset, a calm preparedness to deal with these physical truths without revolt. Aging is a process, and the occasional stiffness or unforeseen malaise is a natural, unavoidable chapter. The true test of maturity lies not in preventing the pain, but in reframing the experience, accepting it with stoic grace, understanding that this is simply the body completing its long, magnificent journey. Your mind must be the fortress of acceptance, ensuring that physical inconvenience does not become spiritual resentment. This is where the wisdom of age shines brightest, the capacity to feel the discomfort and still choose joy, still choose engagement, still choose gratitude. Consider the first and most sublime luxury you've earned: time itself. It's no longer a scarce commodity, rationed out in frantic 5-minute intervals between meetings and pickups. It has become an endless, shimmering ocean. You can sit with a lukewarm cup of coffee and watch the morning light traverse the kitchen floor until it touches the wall, a simple act of observation that was once impossible, a self-indulgence crushed beneath the tyranny of the to-do list. The frantic energy of youth, driven by the fear of falling behind, is replaced by the deep, resonant calm of knowing you are exactly where you need to be. The mornings are yours. The afternoons are a blank canvas. The evenings belong to the quiet hum of contentment. What do you do with this colossal, newfound wealth? You spend it lavishly, without apology, on the neglected treasury of your soul. You pick up the heavy, leather-bound volume you've meant to read for 20 years, and you don't skim. You savor the language, you trace the author's intent, and you allow the pages to absorb the time they deserve. You start that amateur watercolor class, not to achieve mastery, but for the sheer childlike joy of watching colors bleed into wet paper. This is the luxury of incompetence, the right to be a beginner again, unburdened by the expectation of professional achievement. The sole purpose of your new endeavors is delight. The concept of leisure, too, undergoes a metamorphosis. It transforms from a fleeting, necessary recovery period into the very foundation of your existence. Leisure is the space between breaths, the unhurried walk where you notice the pattern of the bark on the old oak tree, the spontaneous midweek matinee, the afternoon spent simply puttering in the garden, planting things that may take years to bloom because you now have the glorious patience to wait. This is the art of being, unyoked from the obligation of doing. The greatest luxury of this decade is not what you acquire, but what you release. The pressure to always be productive, always performing, always quantifiable. And then there is the liberation of travel, a different kind of journey now marked by slowness and immersion. No more 10-day sprints to tick off 5 capital cities. Now travel is the profound luxury of stillness in motion. You choose a small sun-drenched town in Tuscany or a quiet coastal village in Brittany, and you rent a place for a month. You learn the rhythm of the local market, you become a recognized face at the small cafe, and you master the 3 essential local phrases. You watch the tides, not the time. You follow a winding path simply because it looks interesting, confident that nothing important will happen without you. The greatest discovery in this kind of slow travel is that you are not running away from your life, but running deeper into it, realizing that your life is portable, and its true essence resides not in your possessions, but in your ability to observe, connect, and breathe. But if time is the sublime luxury of the 60s, financial independence is its impenetrable fortress. This is the conversation that must be had with the younger self, the small, consistent sacrifice that yields monumental, unshakable freedom now. For many, the tragedy of the later years is the forced labor, the need to trade precious, finite time for a dwindling paycheck simply because the long-term plan was neglected. The greatest luxury this life grants is the unforced exit, the ability to retire not because the law or the calendar dictates it, but because the numbers quietly grant you permission. The absence of financial anxiety is a kind of profound spiritual peace that supersedes any material acquisition. It is the deep, cellular calm of knowing that the wolf is not at the door, and the decision to work or not to work is purely a question of passion, not necessity. This fortress is built not with dramatic windfalls, but with the mundane, almost invisible act of saving, the small percentage tucked away from every paycheck, the consistent contributions, the silent compounding over 40 years. It is the self-love of deferring instant gratification for the sake of future sovereignty. You didn't need to be a millionaire, you just needed to be disciplined. Even the smallest savings, the cost of a daily coffee, redirected into an index fund for decades, creates the necessary buffer that prevents desperation. The true freedom of the 60s isn't found in reckless spending, but in the calculated, measured comfort that your basic needs are covered irrevocably. This financial security transforms the golden era from a period of anxiety-ridden budgeting into a true expansive sabbatical. It is the ability to maintain your radical, compassionate selfishness to choose the path of least resistance for your own spirit, without the grinding weight of economic coercion. This independence is what transforms the sabbatical from a temporary rest into a permanent, limitless era of self-direction. It is the confidence that your time is priceless, and no external need can mandate its sale. Perhaps the most radical and necessary luxury of this age is the right to set boundaries. Not just to set them, but to enforce them without the slightest flicker of guilt. For 60 years, you've been trained as a responder, a fixer, a perpetual motion machine of assistance. The word no felt like a betrayal, a selfish withholding. Now, no becomes an affirmation of your own sovereignty, a beautifully protective shield around your most valuable resource, your peace. You do not have to host the sprawling holiday dinner if the thought exhausts you. You do not have to answer the phone simply because it rings. You do not have to take on the burdens that others are perfectly capable of carrying. This is the time to cultivate a radical, compassionate selfishness, to choose the path of least resistance for your own spirit. If a relationship drains you, you can now curate your connections, pruning the toxic branches to allow the nurturing, vibrant ones to flourish. This unburdening is essential to making space for the true joys of this chapter. These joys often revolve around friends, but again the dynamic shifts. Friendships are no longer forged in the crucible of shared logistical panic, the school run, the frantic work project. They are refined, deepening into companionships, based purely on affection, shared history, and mutual ease. You gather your beloved cohort, the ones who know your history better than you do, and you initiate traditions of pure enjoyment. The monthly book club that spends more time talking about life than literature, the casual Tuesday lunch that stretches until dusk, the spontaneous road trip to nowhere in particular. These moments are luxurious because they are unforced, rooted in the shared understanding that the clock is no longer chasing you. The freedom from a fixed schedule is a constant, ambient delight. The internal stopwatch, which once governed every bathroom break and every mealtime, has been silenced. You eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired, and follow inspiration when it strikes, whether that means tackling a long-postponed organizational project at midnight or spending 2 hours researching obscure Byzantine history at dawn. This fluidity is the antithesis of the scheduled, rigid life you once led, and it allows for a level of creativity and intellectual pursuit that was previously unattainable. You can finally devote serious, continuous attention to complex problems or deeply absorbing hobbies, allowing your mind to wander and connect disparate ideas in a way that the pressured environment of your working years never permitted. The brain, now freed from the stress of constant deadlines, finds a new, more reflective gear. This entire era, this magnificent 6th decade and beyond, is about redefining success. Success is no longer measured by your title, your salary, or your holdings, but by the quality of your days. It is measured by the depth of your sleep, the richness of your laughter, the warmth of your connections, and the lightness in your step. It is a slow, quiet, pervasive sense of gratitude for the present moment. You have earned the right to look at the world, not as a challenge to be conquered, but as a vast, fascinating territory to be explored at your own unhurried pace. So when the sun rises tomorrow, do not jump. Stretch slowly. Listen to the birds. Decide in that moment what small, luxurious freedom you will grant yourself today. Will it be an extra hour in bed, or an immediate unplanned drive to the ocean? Will it be a difficult conversation you postpone, or an easy one you initiate? Will it be an expensive meal, or the simple, profound luxury of a quiet afternoon with your own thoughts? Give yourself the gift of that unhurried decision. Embrace the guiltless freedom. This is not the coda of your life. It is the expansive, richly textured second act, the masterpiece you finally have the time, the wisdom, and the courage to paint. You have earned every second of this magnificent,